Hi again, John Glasscock, the HR guy here. Thank you for tuning in to our second podcast. Today we will be discussing exempt versus non-exempt classifications and specifically how those determinations are made in accordance with federal guidelines and state guidelines. First, let's examine what is an exempt employee and a non-exempt employee. In a nutshell, an exempt employee is exempt from overtime and most timekeeping requirements. A non-exempt employee is one who must be paid overtime of time and a half if they work more than 40 hours in a 7-day work week, and proper timekeeping must be kept. It has been estimated that 95% of the American workforce is non-exempt. Therefore, we'll focus on what defines an exempt employee. There are 3 factors in determining whether or not an employee is exempt: pay rate, job duties, and responsibilities. It is of the utmost importance that you correctly classify your employees to avoid a Department of Labor audit, a wage claim, and even IRS fines. Now let's examine each determining factor for classifying an employee as exempt. The first is pay rate. Currently, an employee must earn at least $684 a week or $35,568 annually. And that's not counting lodging, board, and other like payments. The next thing to review are job duties. An exempt employee must have defined job duties in the normal course of their workday, not the occasional exception. And simply holding a title that appears to be supervisory or managerial title, or because an employee is high value to your company, does not necessarily mean that that employee is defined as exempt. And finally, an exempt employee must have certain responsibilities that are managerial or supervisory in nature. Managerial exemptions are the most common. Under a managerial exemption, an employee must supervise a division or a department within the company. This means the direct management of 2 or more full-time employees and the ability to be able to hire and fire, or at least have significant input into those decisions. Then there are administrative exemptions. Under DOL guidelines, the employee generally works in an office setting and has responsibility for the general workflow of the company's operations. Under administrative exemption, the employee would have discretion and independent judgment on major company decisions. But beware, the administrative exemption is the most commonly misunderstood and misused exemption. Employers often classify secretaries, administrative assistants, HR generalists, and other general office personnel as exempt. And in most cases, this is an error. Unless they have supervisory capacity, and that supervisory capacity is more than 80% of their job duties, these titles should not be classified as exempt. Third exemption would fall under the category of professional exemptions. This is where an advanced knowledge in the field of study would classify. Being a CPA, MBA, CFP, or some other professional designation, as long as they are performing in their specific area of expertise, could be classified as an exemption. Some types of salesmen may also be classified as exempt. The most common are over the road and often out of the office type salesmen. The salesman must be independent and able to make decisions on their own without specific guidelines from the company. A salesperson who works within an office building would not be considered to be exempt. IT employees, if they earn a certain wage rate in some states, such as California, could be exempt. Those employees earning over $100,000 a year may be classified as exempt, providing that they perform at least one of the previously stated duties. Generally speaking, employees who perform duties associated with general labor or who have specific performance guidelines would not be considered to be an exempt employee. And what is the difference between the compensation of the 2 classifications? Employees who are classified as exempt are paid a salary. Non-exempt employees can be paid either a salary or hourly. However, a non-exempt employee is paid a salary, and if they work overtime, you must pay them their overtime rate based upon their weekly salary. It is important for the employer to reevaluate on a periodic basis, and certainly no less than once a year, the exempt employee's duties and responsibilities. Because over time, these duties and responsibilities shift to where an initial exempt classification to what would be now non-exempt classification. And it's up to the employer to make sure that if there was a shift, either the responsibilities are updated to meet the correct classification of exempt, or the exemption is updated to non-exempt. One of the critical pieces of the framing of an exempt or non-exempt employee is a job description. In our next podcast, we will take a deep dive into job descriptions and how they should be written to comply with the two classifications that we have been discussing in this podcast. Also, the involvement of the ADA and other employment issues. I hope you picked up something valuable from this podcast. Remember that Sigma 6 HR Benefits is a full-service human resource management company. Our clients are small to mid-sized companies that generally have anywhere between 10 and 99 employees. Sigma 6 HR provides companies with a full-time human resource department with an affordable monthly schedule of payment. Or we can provide basic HR services for an annual fee. Contact me at support@sigma6hr.com or give me a call at 502-292-2980, and I will be happy to discuss the best option for your business. Again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.